This book was a chore to get through. It is one of the most frustrating books I've ever read. I know it's a classic, and people love it, and they teach it in college classes, high school literature classes, etc. But it was a chore to get through, and I'll put it like this: this book, 390 pages, took me 10 days to read. This book, 726 pages at like half point font or half spacing, 8 days to read. Before I go into my complaints, I'll say the good things about this book. It did a good job of really giving a feel for the French Revolution and its aftermath. I will say that I gathered pretty quickly the name A Tale of Two Cities, how first it's referring to London and Paris, and then Old Paris, New Paris, pre-revolution, post-revolution. So I'll give her props for that. The reason I did not like this book, and it was such a chore to get through, was it just skips around. And I'm not talking about in a, as I mentioned in previous videos, Stephen King type of way where it's like a flashback. No. I'll give you an example of something that is pivotal to the plot. And sorry for a spoiler, but I mean, it's from the 1800s and they've made multiple movies on it. So here you go, spoiler warning. So you have Charles Darnay, and he is in love with Lucy Manette. He sees Lucy's father, Dr. Manette. He goes to visit and tells the doctor that he loves Lucy and he wants to confess his love to her. The doctor says, okay, tell her tomorrow, but leave quickly. I can tell that you actually love her, but, leave quickly because I'm going to find out how she feels and just kind of build you up a little bit. But if she sees you here, then she'll probably think that, we're trying to influence her or whatever. Okay, cool. Charles Darnay leaves. Lucy comes home. Her father, Dr. Manette, asks how her day is. Casual conversation. End scene. Okay, night, fall is there. They go to bed. Okay, cool. So what do you think happens next? Option A. Charles Darnay tells Lucy how he feels, and she rejects him. Option B. Charles Darnay tells Lucy how she feels, and she falls in love with him. Or option C, which is what this book did. Who knows? Who knows how that conversation went? Because the next time you see these two characters, they're married. What? I want to know how the conversation went. How did she react? Was he nervous when he talked to her? What did Dr. Manette tell his daughter about Charles Darnay? Did he build him up? Did he not say anything at all? Who knows? That's why I didn't like this book. It would skip around like that. It would just jump. So you wouldn't get closure. You would just get exposition. And you would not get any details at all. And as soon as you started to get interested in a character, in what they were doing, it would just skip. It would fast forward a few years. So it was such a chore to get through. It was like a bad roller coaster. And there are good roller coasters for adults. They're fun. You build anticipation, then we go down the hill. This was like a roller coaster, like a kiddie ride. Okay, so a tiny hill, but then you get stuck at the top of the hill, and then the mechanic comes and fixes it, and then you just slowly go down like 2 miles an hour. It was just dreary. Glad I could say I've read it. Glad I could say that, I can cross it off as a classic work that I've read. it's so hard to recommend. It's not that it was difficult to understand. I mean, I've read Shakespeare, which is older. I read the King James Bible, older. This book, 1800s, I've read other books from that time period. I've read Moby Dick and others. And so it wasn't the writing, the language of the time, or the spelling of certain words. It wasn't that at all. It was how the story was told and what wasn't told, and things just happened without really any explanation. It was just, oh yeah, they're married. And then later on, oh yeah, they've got a 3-year-old now. Oh yeah, by the way, her name is Lucy. They named their daughter after the mom. How long was she pregnant? Were there any complications? Who knows? Did she have morning sickness? I don't know. Did they struggle with her getting pregnant? Who knows? You don't know, because it just skips and tells you, oh yeah, that happened. When? How? Why? So, yeah. Unfortunately, I recommend this book if you're curious or if you have to read it for a class. But if you are looking for a book to just get lost in, there are so many other classics, so many other good books you can read that will not be as dull and will not be as frustrating as this. But if you're curious about the overall plot and things like that, there's a synopsis at the end of this video. So I'll see you next time.
A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens is an historical novel set against the backdrop of the French Revolution. The story revolves around the lives of several characters, primarily Charles Darnay, a French aristocrat who rejects his family's privilege, and Sidney Carton, a disillusioned English lawyer. Darnay falls in love with Lucy Manette, whose father, Dr. Manette, has been unjustly imprisoned in the Bastille for years. As tensions escalate in revolutionary France, Darnay is drawn back to his homeland and faces trial for his family's crimes. Against the backdrop of political turmoil and personal drama, Dickens weaves a tale of love, sacrifice, and redemption, exploring themes of resurrection and justice. A Tale of Two Cities has been celebrated for its characterizations, evocative prose, and profound exploration of the human condition.